Thank you for being here today. I'm Chang professor from Department of Communication here. So it's wonderful you are here. By being here, it shows something remarkable, that you do not go outside and enjoy great weather. Instead, you show your commitment for this great course. It's wonderful here to be here tonight. I really like this great opportunity. So when we come here, sometimes I ask why I'm here. And as I watch this movie, there are a couple of themes or words that come back and forth again and again. One is called connection. So one of the things the Cheryl and the producers of the documentary, we ask, how are we connected globally? Because we all have a part. It's a global community. For my part, I've been thinking, in what ways I'm connected to this event, to Cheryl. I like to take this opportunity to share my personal perspective experience here. Interestingly, when many years ago, maybe hundreds of years ago, maybe 20 years ago, I guess. Okay, when I was in China, a television journalist, Nick Kristof, and Cheryl's husband, actually was a big name in China. Some of his articles were translated into a Chinese journalism journal. From there, we get a glimpse of the outside world. And when I came to the United States in 1995, and I started my doctorate in cross-cultural mass communication, cross-cultural communication, Cheryl and her husband's book, China Wakes, was one of the favorite books I used in the citation because I studied the year in China, its transformation of Chinese society. A few moments ago, I actually put that book for my shelf. I still saw the notes on the margin. I made that. So it was, and I was watching the documentary, the various the life stories Cheryl wrote. And one of the things she said that really motivated her was when she was a journalist, when she was based in China, seeing the disenfranchised Chinese women. They lost their voice and their various struggles that motivated her to see, almost like the beginning of her career in this area, to see the various women's issues. And she particularly talked about how China's one-child policy is a reflection of profound, deep-seated discrimination against women and against female girls. That's why there's a lot of like the infanticide and a lot of abandonments. So there's another connection here. In the last 14 years, I kind of carved a little name here, niche market here. I'm billed as a professor of international adoption. Now, what I really, a professor of international adoption films, what I really did was to give voice to almost 100,000 Chinese children, mostly girls, who are adopted to the United States families. So I talked about the issues of Chinese one-child policy. I was so amazed today. I'm here to have this honor to introduce Cheryl's movie and to introduce her work to you. So we are so connected this wonderful way. And I think, why are we connected? Because we are wonderful colleagues here at Millersville University, right? So to pass on that wonderful connection, I like to introduce two of my students. We just met 1 month ago from my speech class, right?
Yes.
Please.
I'm Madeline Schiffer. I'm a freshman, communications and theater major, currently taking speech with Dr. Chang.
I'm Catherine Turner. I'm 18, also a freshman, and communication and theater major, taking speech with Professor Chang.
All right, thank you. And what we are going to do today is we show a few clips. I'm sure Cheryl is going to show a few clips to you. And we may show, depending on the time, I guess maybe 10, 15 minutes. Afterwards, we open up some discussions around several questions. The issues, how these issues relate to us, and what we can do. And before we say that, I have personal humbleness. I just noticed that I did not know that this is this formal. I know it's a big name, but and my like the photo here, profiles here, is all as big as this big time speaker. So I think I really deserve 1/4 of the size. Okay. Sorry. All right. So shall we start? I guess you haven't watched the movie yet, right? Okay. I guess it's a very long 2 discs over almost 4 hours. So we watched some snippets, some kind of piece and pieces to get a hint of that. So we have, where's the movie? Where's the DVD? Cheryl? No, Cheryl, Jerry. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Watch it here.
This program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
There's so many things going on in the world right now, and so many things that we all pay attention to, that we oftentimes lose our sense of what's important. But there are stories that need to get out.
My uncle, Victor Palmer, raped me.
There's an interesting thing about tragedy is that we have to be able to relate to it.
Did you actually see any girls that young go with him into the house?
Yes.
We need to be able to have our voices heard.
Because the truth of the matter is, the real story are the people who rise above all of this incredible cruelty. Otherwise, the cruelty wins.
Ami's incredible. She's one of those women that you just kind of feel, okay, so now I have absolutely no excuse. You're so brave.
This country cannot be a better country if women are not part of the solution.
Nick is the guy doing the legwork. The celebrity involvement may be able to amplify the story. That's all. That's all we can do. There are a lot more people that know who Diane Lane is, or that know who Meg Ryan is, that know Nick Kristoff.
And you rescue girls from brothels? How does that work?
The girls and me, we are the same because we are the same life.
You've had the traffickers hold a gun to your head?
You're going to take their own money. The girl is their money. Of course, they're not happy with you.
What's important about what Nick and Cheryl are doing here is to show really heroic people that inspire you to get involved.
Meg, that's what I tell you. She's been sold. 3 years old.
To inflict that experience on a young, innocent human being is unspeakably cruel.
These are not situations that are ever going to be fixed. There's always going to be some form of cruelty and unkindness.
She asked her father for money for tutoring, and he said no.
No child should ever be told you were born in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you didn't get educated.
But that doesn't mean you don't continue to fight that fight and try. And the story's in Half the Sky. Everybody who's read it will tell you, I get it, and there's something I want to be involved in.
Crap roads, crazy vegetation where anyone can hide. 17 miles to go to school by herself. I said, well, what are you afraid of? And she said, ghosts.
Funding provided by the IKEA Foundation.
Jared, please just switch to it. And I'd like to watch the first 2 trailers for 2 discs. 2 discs, each disc, total about almost 4 hours, and we watch 2 profile stories. Now the first 2 trailers give the broader overlook of the program with George Clooney. Now this program's format is like, the structure is like the 6 countries, each country through the eyes of a celebrity, to follow the celebrity's perspective to be immersed in the culture, society, and in some cases like expose, to see some really brutality inflicted on women. What I'd like to do after this the second trailer for the second disc, giving a review of the program, and we watch the 2 small segments. One is in Islamabad, the other is in India. going to a Brussels to show the life and struggle and how these women finally can find their voice to become the solution.
This program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
There's so many things going on in the world right now, and so many things that we all pay attention to that we oftentimes lose our sense of what's important. But there are stories that need to get out.
My uncle Victor Palmer.
We already watched this one, right?
Yeah.
The second one. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, what we are going to do is that we invite the audience to think about the surrounding several areas, 3 areas of questions. First of all, what are the issues represented in the movie? And what are the issues that we know that we did not see here globally? And then secondly, how are these issues relevant to us or from a US context? Are there issues that relate to us or from our college context? Do we have similar issues? What are unique issues we face? And finally, I think that's the strong point of this documentary series. What we can do? How can we use the title there to turn oppression into opportunities? How to transform women from being victims to solutions themselves, and we have to take a part in that. So these are 3 general areas we talk about.
This program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Stories in Half the Sky, first of all, it's good storytelling, but it also happens to be true.
Remember, this is a country where the women have no say on their own bodies.
She doesn't have a radial pulse.
Women are expendable.
Most of the time when we're looking at these crises that are going on all around the world, and they're mostly man-made crises, the real affected people are women.
All the flesh is gone.
I certainly had heard of female genital cutting, female genital mutilation. I just had no idea that it was 130 million women in the world.
They're the ones who oftentimes are the greatest victims, and oftentimes end up being some of the greatest solutions.
Women give life. Women's private parts are the bringers of life. And now I'm gonna get pissed, so you better start talking.
So are we in the red light district already?
Yes. So not in this lane.
This lane too.
This documentary is going to places that have had a history of a certain kind of violence to women, and also put a face to these names that we're reading about in the book, Half the Sky. We understand the story, always. This is how people get engaged.
So you were a commercial sex worker from when to when?
From 94 to 98.
I'm just curious how much you were paid for that work.
50 shillings.
The stories that are in Half the Sky are taking these uplifting, actually, great moments in horrible situations and embracing them in a way that we can.
Maybe I shouldn't ask, but can I ask, did your husband ever hit you?
No.
No.
Because I'm very harsh.
What's a miracle is that there's women who have gone through that and have come out and decided that they're going to do something about it. It speaks so much to the human spirit. Women collect the firewood. Women build the thatched huts. Women raise the children. Women work for the land. The truth is, women do it all. It's not just they're important in society, they're driving it.
We have a newborn baby. The rights we want. We want to choose our husbands. We want to own the land. We want to go to school. We don't want to be cut anymore. We want to be equal.
Funding provided by the IKEA Foundation.
If I can have midwives placed in every health center in Somaliland, that will be a great gift for my people, and that will be a great satisfaction for me. Today we will be driving out to the south of Somaliland, towards the Ethiopian border. We're here in Hargeisa, and we will be going to Balugubadle, which is here. Balugubadle is my village. My extended clan comes from there. What we'll see is lots of little settlements, of a few huts and some livestock, because they're all camel, goat, and sheep herders. Very few health services in these areas. So the day I will see a midwife placed in any of these places, that'll be the day when I will think my training has been justified. The message we had was there was a pregnant woman who's not well, so.
And in a place like this, she's probably had no prenatal care.
No way, no way. The woman who dies is the uneducated, the poor, the nomadic, the one who has no access to hospitals, the women who have no prenatal care, the women who are delivered by their grandmothers or their neighbors, the ones who are getting married too young, the ones whose pelvises are too narrow, the woman who is being delivered by someone who doesn't understand the importance of hygiene and cleanliness and sterility of equipment and hands and tools. These are the women who die.
How old are you, Hinda?
21.
I see. And you already have one child, and now you're pregnant with number 2,
No,
or have you
she's
had a
pregnant with number 3.
How far along is she?
She's just finished 8 months.
How is she feeling?
She said, I'm all right, but I feel weak, and I think I am anemic.
When did you last eat meat?
2 months.
2 months. She's the TBA, right?
She's the TBA.
What is her name?
Bar.
Bar.
Yeah.
When she does a delivery, what supplies does she have?
Ooh. Hello?
Hey, America, it's Christoph.
Hi.
Nice to telephonically meet you.
Yes, very nice to meet you. I'm America Ferreira. I have been asked to go to India with Half the Sky. I've never been. This is my first time, so I'm excited.
Well, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you and working with you, and we just couldn't have a better person looking after us than Urmi Basu. She's a well-educated Bengali woman who works with the prostitutes in the Calicut Red Light District in India, but mostly, above all, with their children, and especially with their daughters. India probably has the biggest trafficking problem in the world. Entry into prostitution is involuntary, it's very young, and the stories are just hair-raising. You know, hopefully bringing in some cameras may give them a little more attention and bring them out of the margins, and once people pay attention, that's the first step toward a solution.
Well, thank you so much, and I really look forward to meeting you and getting to be there. Thank you, Nicholas.
No problem at all.
Okay, bye. A friend of mine had given me the book Half the Sky, and I finished reading the book probably just a couple days before I got an email asking me to be a part of this documentary, so it felt very fated. When I found out that the topic we'd be covering is intergenerational prostitution, I really only knew what I'd read in Half the Sky.
I have a journalist's visa. That's awesome.
Felt like an incredibly heavy topic, and I knew that I would be seeing things that I'd never have seen in my life.
One of
of the global paradoxes is that countries with the most conservative sexual mores tend to have the most prostitution. These are also countries where women have very little value.
India probably has more sex slaves than any other country in the world. And India's caste system is divided into many subcastes, many of which are tied to a particular job, including prostitution. These women are, in a sense, fated to be prostitutes.
A girl born to a woman who comes from that part of society where prostitution is the traditionally accepted way of life, she doesn't know how to think anything else. She just accepts it as part of her fate. And a lot of things go on in the name of tradition here.
Hello! Hi! Hey! So great to see you!
Good to see you too.
You're looking good?
Thank you. Hi,
so great to be back.
Great to be back. Have you here. Great to have you here.
Urmi is the most uplifting, joyous person that one can imagine in a pretty sordid environment.
As you can see, our lane hasn't improved much, and this is after my everyday fight to keep the lane clean. When I visited Calicut for the first time, I couldn't imagine children having that kind of an existence. The kids were all moving around in the alleys with no food. The smaller kids were left in the same rooms where the mothers were entertaining their clients. So it was literally a child lying, sleeping under the bed, on top of which the mother was with her client. And I felt that no child, nowhere in the world, deserves to have a childhood like that. And it is not to say that there are not children in our rural areas who have very hard life, other urban street kids, but when you are the child of a sex worker, you're really at the bottom of the ladder.
So are we in the red light
district already?
Yes. So not in this lane?
This lane too.
This lane
All
too?
the rooms on both sides are dwellings of the women.
Of prostitutes?
Yes.
And this is where they take their customers?
Yes.
In the year 2000, Urmi started up this New Light program. She provides training programs, she provides health programs.
Okay, we stop here. So I think there's a lot of clips and on the website of YouTube, and I'm sure it's going to introduce more. And I don't know if the school library has the copy of the DVDs. I got that from Kim. So let's open up for some discussions. Okay, you want to go ahead with whatever? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I don't have anything specific right now. I mean, we talked about,
yes.
Being young women ourselves.
Yeah.
And how, because there's sections of the book that talk about the U.S. and everything and how that kind of makes it real. But I read this book and watched most of the documentary in high school last year in one of my English classes, and we talked a lot about cultural realism versus cultural relativism, and that got into a pretty heated debate. Is there really a right or wrong? So
that's interesting. Okay, I jump here. What is there? There's actually a section. In class, almost we cover in class. What Nick Christoph was walking there, he was talking about this is the cultural part, and Nick was saying this is the big particularly related to academic life in the movie. He was, that's referred to. Maddie was talking about. So I'm not sure this cultural relative idea is right, because Nick was saying, I always believe this kind of objectification of women, subjugation of women is wrong. To the mutilation of a vagina based on that culture is disgusting. So he was saying that there got to be some universal ideas, universal good that different cultures should apply. Culture is not a dumpster under which you can sweep on, your various cruel activities. Is that right? So what's your position? What is your position?
It's a pretty broad debate.
Yeah. What would you think? That's one of the issues that Nick mentioned that in the program. Yeah. So there's the issue. Actually, it's a deep issue. Right? If we want to act, we want to intervene. Are we accused of big nose, of imposing ideas on the indigenous culture of people, to even to a point to destroy their equilibrium of their cultural life?
One thing about a culture is these things have been going on for so long, and it's truly seen as the norm. So us going over as these know-it-all Westerners and say, no, this is wrong, you should stop. It truly has to come from within the culture.
Great, exactly. The author, the movie addressed that. Within the culture, then what is the vehicle or vehicles that can bring the change within to transform, as we say, that women from victim to solutions themselves?
Sometimes it's just a simple idea of empowering a woman to simply say, just because your culture doesn't mean you have to do it. And through that, letting somebody know that they shouldn't be forced to do something that they don't want to do, that's just a starting point. It's not fixing the whole problem, but it's a good start.
Exactly, wonderful, right? Yeah. Yes.
I think too that sometimes the mistakes we make is that we go there uninformed and uneducated, and we make assumptions without really educating ourselves and trying to get a better understanding of the culture, and just go over and try to make sweeping changes without actually talking to individuals and getting their feedback on what is happening and how that makes them feel, and talk to them. And I think what I like about this is it's individuals within the culture speaking to the women. I think that's really important because there's a better understanding, and also to help us understand, because I couldn't go over there and say this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I don't have an understanding of the culture. So you know what I mean? You have to understand something before you can just go in and say this is wrong.
Jen, you could be the director of the program. Yeah, really the crucial point is that you talk about it here, the women in their own culture become constant, self-conscious, become the force of change, the agent of change. So in this documentary, there are segments where they see how the women emerge from the slums, from the Brussels, from the domestic violence, to find their voice, to establish various organizations. We have, women who are empowered become the business women, to be able financially independent and to use that money for a change. We see many girls in Vietnam in this program, in this documentary, that they would follow in the footsteps of miserable lives of their parents with their own identity. However, they were able to go to school, to find their own identity, to become the force of change. What a cultural part of what I always believe, and I think it's touching this movie too, if you do not receive education, even you think that I have this affection to this culture, that might be from the false consciousness. Because without a culture, or without education, you are denied of opportunities to seek a different, a more productive life toward a productive citizenry. That's what I think great. So maybe we have a few minutes. Let's talk about how what are issues that are related to us as faculty, as young American college students.
One question I was wondering about is we think about where we are right now and the issue of commercialized sex. If young men in college are the prime consumers of pornography, will we say, oh, that's just kind of a cultural thing that we have going on here, nobody should get in the way of that? Is it illegal, or is it just the free expression of choice? So how would we feel here at Millersville if somebody comes from another country and says, we have decided that pornography is a bad thing, and we are going to do everything we can to stamp it out.
That's a
What would we
wonderful
think?
idea. So the table is turned, right? So we always feel we are on the higher moral ground to make judgment about now people in the other, you are saying it's a wonderful scenario. For other culture, we want to form into this reaction because we believe pornography is, even it is your free will, but it is objectification of women. So we want to do something like that, yes.
I'm confused. Maybe it's because I'm so old. Are we talking about whether it's wrong or how to address the wrong? Because to your question, which is a really good point, we would say, I would think, most people, men and women in this room, that it's wrong to commercialize sex for the gratification of whether it's college men or anybody, to take a woman and against her own will and to utilize her for someone else's gratification. I think we would all, I suspect that the vast majority of us in this room would say that's wrong. And I suspect we would agree that it would be wrong in any of the countries we're looking at in the films. But it sounds to me like we're getting caught up in the question of culture, and that culture becomes the determinant of right or wrong, when there ought to be some absolute at some point, isn't there?
Yes.
Is it really a question of whether some person from another country comes and tells us it's wrong, or whether we just know that's wrong? So what's the question? Is the question whether it's right or wrong, or how it should be addressed?
I think that Dr. Weiss was saying that she believes, and I believe too, here, in some states, pornography is legal, but we believe it is a wrong thing to do, right? It's immoral, right? I'm hearing you are saying something we feel is also another form, even from women's will, but it is objectification of women. It's commercialized sex, right?
I would say that pornography seems to me, at some level, perhaps, to contradict the theme of the conference, which is human rights. That commercial representation and exploitation of women violates human rights. And yet you might say, we all think this is wrong, and yet it is everywhere. Everywhere, sex is commercialized.
Agreed.
And yet it seems like, okay, well, that's just part of our culture, is we commercialize sex.
Right.
And some other culture has female genital mutilation. Well, we're all going to have just different cultural practices. What they all have in common is they degrade.
Right.
What do
I
we do
think
about that?
on that ground we agree with each other. It's a wrong thing to degrade women, regardless of culture.
And I guess I'm asking, and don't misunderstand my question, because I do believe it's wrong. I'm asking, why do we believe it's wrong? Because I would suspect that deep in the heart of each one of us, we just know that's the wrong thing to do. But then culture, because the forces of culture begins to move a certain direction, then we as Westerners, principally Westerners, not so much Middle Eastern or Easterners, but Westerners particularly, adopt a postmodern view that says culture becomes the determinant of rightness and wrongness. Wherein the human spirit, we seem to know there are some things that are wrong. That becomes the clash, it seems to me.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe we have a few minutes. Let's just like to be more specific. So what are the specific issues we face in college? How can we as educators or as agents of tomorrow, our students, right? We can become a force to make a change. So more specifically in our college environment. In your experience, do you find some that as a woman, you face some issues?
Definitely.
Yeah. I know for me, domestic violence is something that I'm very passionate that I would love to see wiped out. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I do feel stronger for it. And in high school, I made public service announcements that we played every day for a week in February, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Week. Played the PSAs, and it did get people's attention, and it didn't, obviously it didn't wipe it out in my school, but it did get people asking questions, and they wanted to know more, like, well, why is what I think wrong, or why is what I think right?
And we had talked about this yesterday when we were mapping some things out. Not necessarily an issue, but we were talking about ways we can help if we should at all, and we agreed that awareness was like the first step. Definitely bringing this and domestic violence and issues right here on campus or in our homes to people's attention, and that can do a lot of things if it's not even a physical act, just saying something, letting people know that there are issues that do exist. It's not a perfect world. That can do a lot, because this brought a lot of awareness to me last year in school. So it was very hard for me not to jump on a plane and fly to one of these countries. My whole class agreed that it was a very fine line that we treaded with and explored, but it brought a lot to my attention. So I think that's definitely the biggest first step.
That's wonderful. Bringing awareness to society, to our neighborhood, to our community, is part of the action, the first action for us. The fact that we have many students here today to show us that earlier I said that it's a commitment to that action. So in that regard, it's a wonderful place for us here. So that, to us, is another value or definition of liberal arts education, right? Are we on attack? No, right? It's so important. So I really, it's a great honor for me, as I mentioned earlier on, that Cheryl and her husband, their work has inspired me, and for me it's such a great honor to speak, to introduce Cheryl, this big time author, a great individual to make a change, right? I'm so glad to have you all here, all right? Thank you very much today.